I'm Dave Whittingham.
And I'm Kate Morris.
Hospitality can be hard for families with neurodivergent members. Perhaps we can't copy and paste what other people do. In this episode, we're going to turn to the Bible to see what God's hospitality looks like and what the Bible says about hospitality.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kate. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Great to be recording another episode. An episode about hospitality, and man, am I glad we don't have a guest for this one because I'm sick of having guests on our podcast. And
an episode all about being hospitable and you don't want guests. Good one, Dave.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, it can be hard, can't it? Hospitality is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's really nice when other people do it for us, but it can be really hard.
It can be hard when people do it for us too, though, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you know someone who is totally awesome at it and it's just so natural? Or?
I grew up in a home where my parents were very hospitable. So, I mean, I could think about so many different people we had in our home week after week. I remember one young man who was in our home, wasn't a Christian. He came over to read the Bible with my dad and he became a Christian. He's still a Christian now, all these decades later.
Wow.
Or there's a mum I know, she's a Christian, she's one of the school mums, and she's had people who are experiencing homelessness come and live with her for months at a time while she helps them find their feet, find a job. And the whole time she's sharing the Bible with them, reading the Bible each night with them. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, wow.
How about you,
so
Dave?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I know a guy who's like an extreme extrovert, and if he's not with other people, then it's like he's not living. And so he posted on Facebook once, he'd just been on a church weekend away, and then he'd been to church when they got back from that. And then he was like putting a call out saying, hey, who wants to meet up and come out for a late dinner with me, because he just wanted to be with people. And they were always having people in and out of their house. Yeah, I'm not sure if they ever had just their family. And it's quite remarkable. But it's easy to look at that and go, that's what everyone should be like, and to feel like that. And then it can feel a sort of weight and a burden. And I don't think it's meant to be quite like that, is it?
I don't think I think that's right. It's not supposed to be copy pasting what other people are doing, or that we look at others and say, they're doing it right, I'm doing it wrong. Or, I have to be doing it in this remarkable way that other people are doing it. But I don't think that excuses us from challenge within this either, though.
Yeah. So as we think about it, as we go through it, we want to say, okay, we want to, I guess, relieve a legalistic pressure, but also feel what God wants us to do and what God loves us to do, and go forward in that with grace, don't we?
Yeah. And this is one of those areas that have such flexibility. God knows that we're all different. He chose to make us all different. And he knows that we've got different challenges and capacities that will change through different seasons as well. And so I think it's a beautiful thing, hospitality. We've got these flexibilities to be creative. So yeah, it's a good topic to think through.
Absolutely. Well, shall we get into it? I think you've got some quotes for us of some of the struggles that particularly people with neurodivergent members in their family have.
Yeah, so this is a topic that has come up again and again in my research with Christian families, that they wish they could be doing more, but life is quite complicated. So one mother said to me, she said, we can't plan events. I can't say for sure that we can be somewhere. We might drop out the night before or the morning of, or even right before. Yeah, so you can hear that heartache in what she's saying. Like, we want to plan things, but we can't. And I guess for families like this, it could be that there's a regulation shift going on in members of the family, and that regulation shift can change suddenly. They can be quite regulated and then find life hard quite suddenly. Could be their sensory capacities full for the day. It could be a day when transitions are just too hard as well, or depression or anxiety are taking over. It could be so many different things, couldn't there?
Oh, yeah. And being flexible within your own family and your own household is one thing, and you can set up ways to do that and expectations around that. But then once you start including other people in that and making plans with other people, it just becomes that whole, it goes to that extra level of difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's right. Another family told me about how hard it is when they are with other people. So this family said, we can't just leave our kids to play with other kids as we talk to the adults. We need to be supporting our kids in shifts. So I always need to be thinking 5 steps ahead, she says. I can't relax unless the kids aren't there. Other people really don't get this unless they also have experience with neurodivergent children. So for this family, it's hard to even be present when they are with other people.
Mm, mm. Those other people they want to be hospitable with should definitely come to our webinar so that they do understand what it's like to be with neurodivergent people. Just put in the little plug there. Yeah.
Sneaky little plug. Look, I endorse
Yep.
that, Dave. It's going to be a great seminar, a webinar, I should say.
Yeah.
A young autistic girl, I think she really helped me see what's tricky for her when she's around people. She says, I don't like people chewing. Sometimes I can't sit with my friends at lunch because they eat so annoyingly. I feel guilty because I don't want to make them feel bad, but I have to leave because I can't help getting frustrated and crying. And I don't like dinner time. I don't like many foods. Most of them make me feel sick. So how can this family be sharing a meal when someone in the family, the fact of a meal is going to make life so difficult, frustrated, crying, feeling sick? So meal probably is off the cards for this family.
Yeah, which is weird because it sounds like, hang on, isn't that what hospitality is all about? So that's really, and meals are really good.
Meals are great.
They're real, like everyone eats. And so you think, surely we can just all eat together. And that's a common bit of advice about hospitality. But here is something that just throws a spanner in the works there and goes, actually, that's massively difficult.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's a lot of, when I read or see Christian things on hospitality, a meal is often at the center. But how wonderful we've got this flexibility, which we'll be looking at in a sec. And so it doesn't have to be a meal. That's okay if this isn't possible. And I've heard from other families all sorts of different things that make it hard. Families have talked about distress after being out or after having people over to their home, just general exhaustion. A lot of families have a lot of lack of sleep, and so they can just be quite fatigued all the time. Lots of families too speak about the importance of strict routines for them as well. And so what happens when hospitality will mean a routine goes out the window. But it's really good that hospitality isn't just about dinner and it isn't about having people over only. I know for our family at the moment, we're just in a season where midweek dinners are not really easy for having people in our home for midweek dinners. Just people are exhausted in our family at that stage. But there are other ways to do it. That doesn't actually preclude us from being hospitable. So why don't we turn back to the Bible to see what is hospitality and what does the Bible say about it?
That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
One of the great places to start, obviously, is with God, who is, at his very core, hospitable. Hospitable is a funny kind of word, isn't it? Because we think we know what it means, but then once you come to define it, it can mean different things to different people. Sometimes it means cooking the perfect meal for your friends, with place cards and fancy napkins. And,
I've never tried
that. And things like that. But I don't think that's at the core of what it means. The Greek word for hospitable, we don't really want to be talking lots about Greek, but the Greek word literally is love of strangers. And so it's a love and care for people who aren't necessarily your best mates, but who you're welcoming into your space. And that's exactly what we see from God. It's so remarkable when God makes the world. He could have made the world with all the creatures being animals, but he doesn't do that. He makes lots of animals, but he specifically sets apart one type of creature who he makes in his image And as he does that, he has in mind an eternal plan where he's going to not just create servants, but he's actually making people who he will eventually bring into his family. And so you see with Adam and Eve, there is a close personal back and forth discussion with them. He walks in the garden with them, with these people who are so limited and so different to him. And you see that right at the beginning. And then you think, well, sin would obviously destroy that. And to a degree it does. But strangely and amazingly, God doesn't walk away from his relationship with humans. He sets about to faithfully do this salvation task where he brings people into his family, into his glory. So we get to share the glory of God in eternity, which is just a mind-boggling sort of thing. All with these people who are his enemies, who have turned their back on him. He has reached out and brought people into his home to be seated with him in Christ at his right hand. That is a remarkable love of God for people who are not like him.
Yeah, it's a really surprising love, isn't it? It's a love that just keeps extending bigger and bigger. He's not just providing for the needs of people. He's not just making sure that they are fed and sheltered. But yeah, that gospel picture of God loving his enemies, raising us up with Christ so that we can be brothers and sisters with Christ, adopted as God's children, coming into God's family. It's this picture of true belonging. We're not just having God reach out and give us things that we need. We're actually brought in and loved as a member of that family. And I think that sense of belonging, that reality of belonging, I should say, is just something that is really, really beautiful about God's picture of the hospitality that he shows to us, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's almost a reverse of what we expect as well, in that, yes, he does bring us in, but also he comes and lives in us, which is not an expression of our wonderful hospitality. It's actually an expression of his astounding love and hospitality, of his willingness to go in by his Spirit into the hearts of people who are his enemies and live in them and change them and bring them to be more and more like the Lord Jesus. That's, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and so this, I think, is why the picture of hospitality is bigger, because it's not just welcoming friends into your home. It's not even just donating things to the local charities or something. It's this picture of love, this God-like love that reaches out to the stranger. There's no limit to who should be recipients of our love. And there's also no limit to what that love should look like. It needs to be other person-centered love for their benefit and understanding the belonging that they have alongside us. And it's for God's glory as well, which we'll get into. Let's have a look at some passages in the New Testament, thinking through what does the Bible say around what Christians should be doing as far as hospitality goes.
So here's one from Romans chapter 12, verse 13. It really highlights that hospitality, whatever it looks like, it's not an optional extra for us. So Romans 12:13, this is the NIV version, says, share with the Lord's people who are in need, practice hospitality. And so it's one among many things that Christians do, but it is something that Christians are called to do, not as an aside, but as core to who we are, which totally makes sense, doesn't it? If God has been so hospitable to us, we want to be hospitable to other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty clear, isn't it, there? Turning to 1 Peter, or 1 Peter as we say in Australia, 1 Peter 4 verse 9, Peter's speaking to all his readers and he says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. So he's saying here, like, it's to one another. I mean, he makes it pretty clear. It's everyone again. It's something to give and to receive. And it's interesting, isn't it, that he knows he needs to say without grumbling, that it's tricky.
Yeah. It's a great little thing to throw in there. It's like, I'm going to have people over for a sandwich and they better sit there and enjoy it. And, well, I've done my Christian duty for the week. But as soon as you throw in without grumbling, doing it because it's a duty to do it completely goes out the window, because you can't do a duty. Well, it's very hard to do a duty with a really loving, open heart. This is talking about something much bigger than that. It's doing it with a loving, joyful heart, which just says we need to do it with prayer, right? Because we need God to help us to be as loving as He is to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder too if we can expand that as well, because it's to one another. Again, it's receiving hospitality as well without grumbling. And so when we receive hospitality, and it's or we're receiving it, understanding that we need people to reach out and help us in that moment without grumbling that we're in that situation. And it's also without grumbling, I think it's easy to look at other people, like we said at the start, there's people who are able to do things that we're not able to do at this time. I can practice hospitality without looking at these other people and grumbling that I can't do it like them.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And what you're saying about receiving it, because it does say offer hospitality to one another, which means, someone else should be offering it to us. There can be a real pride thing, can't there, of not being willing to accept help or love or care from other people. And you can say, oh, no, I'm fine. But that really can be a pride barrier, whereas actually we should be open and acknowledge the fact that we do need help. And we do need other people. That's what being Christian is all about. We need God. And God says, actually, we need other people as well. And so, being open to that and humble in that.
Yeah, and to have the blessings in that as well. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Jesus talks about that, about this is going to be so good for you. So there might be something we have to let go to receive it. But once we do let go, we actually find out it's so much better than we ever thought possible.
Yeah, I think that's right. So why don't we have a look at the kind of verses around? So we've looked at two passages just now. If we have a look at the verses around those, I think it even opens up a little bit more about what hospitality is, more than just a command to be hospitable or to give and receive hospitality and to not be grumbly. Let's have a look around those verses.
Yeah, totally. So, if we have a look at that Romans 12:13 passage, it's all about love in action. And so we get these lot of quick, sharp hits about love. So love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves, never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. And we shouldn't, I guess, wash out hospitality as though all love is hospitality. It is talking about a specific way to love people, but it very much fits within that eager care for other people. So, even where it says, never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor. Again, that's more than duty, is getting that eager desire to do what God's called us to do, which will only happen again as we reflect on what God's done for us. That's what's going to help us to be eager to do it, to not grumble in it, and to be loving in every aspect as we go around loving people.
Yeah, that's right. And it's saying serving the Lord there, that we're doing it. All of these things, we're wanting to be serving the Lord as we're doing them. And the verses around the 1 Peter passage I read before. So I read 1 Peter 4 verse 9, but if we look at kind of 9 to 11, I might not read it here, but those verses are talking about using our gifts to serve each other so that in all things, God may be praised through Jesus, not my cooking, not even my hospitality abilities, but it's in all things that God may be praised through Jesus. And these verses are talking about how it's other people focused as well, as we've been talking about. It's this love for other, and that is so extensive. That's not the word I'm looking for. And that's so it's so broad, not just our friends. It's able to be applied to everyone in our midst.
And it's interesting, you mentioned gifts, and the passage there mentions gifts. There are some gifts that, some people should do and other people just shouldn't do. So, no one's ever asked me to lead singing in church, and no one ever should, because that would be not helpful for, the building up of the body. But I sing in church with the other people. And with hospitality, it's something we should all do, but we can acknowledge as well, there are some people who really are going to be gifted in hospitality, like the way you're talking about your parents there, who there's something beautiful and wonderful, and we should watch those people and learn from them. We may never be like them, and that's okay. We can learn from those people who are particularly gifted in it, and then consider, okay, what can we apply in what we're doing, even though if we do it in a more limited way. Okay, so it's worth summing up where we've come to. What are we talking about when we're talking about hospitality? So we talked about the Greek word of being love of strangers. Obviously, you're going to be loving to people who aren't your absolute strangers. But actually, the more you're hospitable with people, the less stranger-like they're going to become, because what you're doing with hospitality is you're inviting them into your space, into your home, into your family, into your environment, so that they can actually feel a level of belonging with you, which is what God does to us. So he invites us into his space so that we can actually be part of his family. And so it's not like you invite them in and you say, you're not strangers anymore, and so we can't be hospitable to you anymore. But it is that welcoming, and we're always pushing ourselves to say, who is the next stranger? Who is this person who I might be uncomfortable with, but I want to welcome them in? I mean, that's what we're always doing with evangelism, isn't it? Because immediately with evangelism, there is a person. They're in the darkness, you're in the light. They're in the world, you're in the spiritual realm. There is a fundamental difference, but you want to welcome them in, and you want to bring them into the same family that you've enjoyed in the Lord Jesus. And so we're doing that with everyone. We want to have our eyes open to who we're going to love in this way by bringing them into our space.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it's lovely, isn't it, knowing that God hasn't made any mistakes. He's given me this address, and he's given me the neighbors around me. He's given me the school community. He's given me people I bump into. He's put people in my midst, and it's not by accident. And he knows my capacity. He knows my limits. He knows my strengths. He knows my weaknesses. And these people aren't accidentally given to me, and I'm not accidentally given to them. And so I think it's beautiful, like looking at this and expanding that idea. We don't need to feel really sad that we can't love in a particular way. We are able to love with these things that we have, and be hospitable with these things that you have. And Dave, like you said, that it's having people into your home, but it's having them into your family, or it might be into your environment. It might be not your home. It might be outside of your home. But it's that sense, it's that reality that they belong in your life, and that Jesus is for them and working to be sharing that. I think it's great to expand it, because I don't think God wanted it to be limited down, or he would have said, have people at your dining table every week. Once a week, and you will eat the best food. And what did you say before? Place cards. I've never done that.
Place cards, yeah.
Place cards and the fanciest feast with all the money that you don't have. And so we can be sort of reimagining what hospitality is, coming back to the Bible, seeing what it is, seeing what God says about hospitality and his love. And from there work out, okay, so with the limitations we have, with the people in our family who we have, what can we be doing? So for my family, I know that routine really helps my kids. And so we've tried to build some hospitality into that routine in order to actually just build it in. To work with kind of routine could be a weakness or a hard thing, but it can also really serve us. We can routinely do things. So at the moment, we're going to a playground each week, and it means that we can invite anyone we like along. We can bring afternoon tea. It's same playground, same day, same time, and we can be sharing life with these families. And it's really interesting as we've done this, because we are there every week and because it's something predictable that's happening. There are 2 local families who over time have joined in with us. They come and they'll share the afternoon tea and they'll share life with us in that time as well. And so these families now come along and share life with us. And part of sharing life, I share my faith with them and I'm sharing the gospel with them. And it's meant that we've got this way that we can be hospitable to them in a way that's working with where our family is up to at the moment.
Oh, that's so lovely. And one of the things I love about the way that you're doing that as well is that you're saying we're going to be there every week. Anyone can come, which means you're forced to be hospitable to whoever turns up.
Yeah.
So you might think, oh, I want my best friend to turn up and that's going to, I just want to really have a chat and hang out with them. But actually you're opening that much wider and saying people will turn up, and when they turn up, that's the person I'm going to be hospitable with, loving with, talking with. And that's a great example of love of stranger, even if they're not entirely strangers.
Yeah, well, they can be. Yeah, and it's nice because I can't fit an endless number of people in my home. So it's nice to be able to not have to stress about that either.
As we were thinking about hospitality, an example that came to my mind was I went to a home earlier this year and it was just a really beautiful example. There was so much neurodivergence from the different families that came to this event. But one of the great things about it was we had an outdoor fire, and that was, I guess, the hub of where the conversation was happening. But through that whole evening, people were coming, they were going. They were going and sitting in their space and doing colouring. They would come back and have a chat. They would disappear off for a sleep even.
Lovely.
And so there was a space was created where it was safe to either be there or to be away from there. And I thought that was really, really helpful. And it just that safety created an easy environment for them to be hospitable, family with neurodivergent kids, but also to invite other neurodivergent people into that space.
I think that's lovely. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's really helpful for being hospitable is talking to your kids and having really clear expectations around what's going to happen. So if you want to have people over and you want them at the dinner table, being able to say, okay, this is what the meal is going to look like. This is this is how long we think it's going to go for. And then saying, but there's going to be this gap. Maybe we're going to have a main meal. We might have some dessert later, but after we've done the main meal, it's totally fine for you to disappear into your room or disappear into somewhere else. Or saying, hey, we're having these people over next Tuesday, but you don't need to be here for that. We're going to be in the space, and they need to know that because they need to say, okay, there's going to be this home invasion by these strangers, and that's going to affect my world. But what do I need to know about where I'm going to be or not going to be? Where do I have to show up and where do I not have to show up? And as the kids get old, like when they're younger, you're going to be more directive with that. But as they get more into teenagehood, I think you're going to have a discussion about, well, what do you think? Do you think you can join us for this part and hang out? And sometimes they'll join and not speak at all, and that's totally fine because partly what they're doing is just learning how you speak in that environment. But giving them permission and having that discussion about, okay, where do you want to show up? Where do you not want to show up? And giving some freedom and flexibility within that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's working out how to work with the people in your family, not copy pasting what other people do. If you've got a schedule of this event, if you've had to manage energy for this event, that's wonderful. And you can go back to our episode 2 and have a think about spoon theory. And if you don't know what that is, you can go back to episode 2 and figure it out. Managing energy, it's so important. And those little breaks along the way can be little islands of rest in order to make it a possible evening. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we've found helpful is if there's something that our kids absolutely love, and that becomes a thing when we're having people into our space, there is something that the kids can do, even with other kids, even if they've never met the kids before, that will just make that hospitality easier for them. And so my wife, Janice, at one stage, she found by the side of the road, which she always finds things by the side of the road, she found a box of 2,000 takeaway coffee cups. She picked it up and brought it home. And for a few years, every time we had people into our home, the coffee cups would come out and the kids, both our kids and if the other people were bringing kids, them as well, would go into the lounge room and they would just build these phenomenal towers from floor to ceiling. They would build mazes that would sort of go everywhere. Eventually there would be the great crescendo of having people over was obviously the knocking down of the towers that we'd film and put into slow motion and that sort of thing.
That's great.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
But it just made that thing easier because if I just said to my family, we're going to have these people over and you've never met them before, you just see the tiredness wash over them immediately just at the thought of it. And sometimes they wouldn't want it at all, but even when they were they were being loving and open, saying yes, this is a good thing, the tiredness would still be there. But we knew that with the cups, that would be a lifting thing that they could do with other people that, made hospitality doable for them.
That's great. It has the sort of extrinsic motivation, we call it, something external that is motivating them. And I'm sure that you're talking with them too about why we're internally motivated as well to be doing this. But there's also this factor of sometimes people don't know what to do when people are over. And I think particularly neurodivergent kids will have this blank of, sure, people are here, but then can I do Duplo? Can I do Lego? And to actually have something there, here's the activity that you're going to be doing if you want to. It can just help them launch into knowing, this was part of what we'd pictured, what we'd planned, and I know it's fun. So I love that. I think that's great on multiple levels. And I think also it's coffee cups that you got for free. Like there's nothing fancy and flash about that as well. A non-flashy thing that our family did that took a little bit of time for my heart to actually accept was for a long time we had uni students over at our house. And I'm naturally someone who I love cooking for people. I love making it lovely. But you can't have uni students over every single week with little kids and have it fancy. And so it was soup, it was cheap dinners, because also we can't afford to have fancy dinners every week. And there was just the mess of life as well. There are toys on the floor, that sort of thing. But at this stage of life too, with littler kids, we needed to have time putting them to bed. And so people would turn up. I may or may not be even there to welcome them. My husband would be. I might be off putting kids to bed. I might be gone for half an hour. I might be gone for an hour. 10 minutes after I join everyone, the kids might wake up. I might be there when they're eating. I might be there when they're reading the Bible. I might not be. But it also was an open invitation. Friends, like uni students, could turn up with their friends. And so we also didn't know how many people would be there. Would we need to be sitting on like random stools and kid seats, or would we have enough chairs around the table? And it was interesting for me to see my heart in that need to actually get used to that, to say, am I happy to welcome people into kind of the messy family thing? And actually, the beauty of it was when I let that happen, it actually made people feel more welcome and feel more like they belong. They belong in my family. If they push the Duplo off the couch in order to sit on the couch, if I'm there and gone again because, we're all part of the family together, I think that was actually, it's interesting, isn't it? When we soften and it's not about pride, it actually can end up serving people better. They can actually feel that belonging better.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if there's I think there is that pride where people want to say, oh, I don't want to show the messiness of life. But I think maybe fear is a better way of talking about it as well, because with when we have neurodivergent kids, sometimes there is that fear that people won't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People won't be gracious towards us. Like, we know what goes on in our home, and we've come to think through that, but other people might not be. And so that certainly can be a fear. But there's actually something really loving in inviting people over and letting them see the mess and helping them to understand the mess as well. And so if you think of it as an entertaining sort of thing, and then your kid has a meltdown, well, everything's really bad. But if you think of it as welcoming people into your space, and a child has a meltdown, and these people have never seen anything like that, that gives you an opportunity, maybe not in the moment, but to talk to them about that, and talk to them about the way your family operates and the way that you're dealing with that. And it gives them an opportunity to love you as well. And I think that's better than putting up this wall and barrier and saying, I can't ever let people in because they don't understand. Well, let's help them to understand the sort of things we're dealing with and the way that we operate in order to be hospitable while having neurodivergent children and adults.
I think that's right. We don't have to say no one will ever understand and shut them out. But I wonder too if there's a reality of if you're having people over and someone's having a meltdown, that's actually an expression that this isn't really possible in this season, perhaps. It might be that actually that's something you need to listen to and say, well, it's not working in this model that I have made up. I mean, really, having people for an evening meal is a made up thing. What's another thing that we can do that would be easier? Is there a day of the week that works? Is it that Saturday's better because then you can recover from having that for the rest of the Saturday afternoon, as opposed to a Tuesday evening when there's no recovery time and you're back at school the next day? It could be that actually these are signs that we need to be flexible. So it's kind of both, isn't it? Like, we can welcome people into the mess, and so we can have people amongst it with us, but we also can be working with the members of our family with our limitations in order to say, let's be flexible. The Bible doesn't say it has to be this one way. What's a way that we can be loving in a way that we can all get involved and be loving and not be scared and not feel overwhelmed too much? And it's mapping out these things. What activity do we need to do to regulate beforehand, and what activities do we need to do afterwards as well? I'm seeing it as an event that goes longer than the few hours that someone's at the house. What needs to happen before, what needs to happen afterwards, and mapping it like that.
Yeah.
It's so tricky, isn't it?
It is tricky. Loving people is tricky. Loving people is always tricky, no matter what your neurotype is. But there are those extra things that we need to be thinking about when we are dealing with neurodivergence. But they're really good things to be thinking about because they push us in our love. So rather than saying, oh, I don't have to love people because it's all just too hard, we actually get the opportunity to say, okay, it's going to be hard to love people. So how am I going to work to love people in this way? How am I going to invite people into my space with all this trickiness and thinking carefully about doing that.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Something to have conversations with people around us with, isn't it? To be chatting this through. Yeah, because different seasons will come and go as well. And being prepared to wonder if you're out of a particular season as well, being prepared to say maybe that wasn't possible before and now it is possible. Or me talking about having uni students over, that at the moment isn't something that we're doing. It was possible then. That's not something that's possible at this particular stage in our life. We're doing other things instead. And I think, yeah, you've got to be flexible without throwing the whole thing out if possible.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, we don't have to just grit our teeth and force ourselves through this and drag our family members through hospitality because we have to do it and this is what it has to look like. And we don't want to either be saying, look how hard this was for the family. Wow, that must have been a really good service for God. We actually want to be thinking carefully to say, okay, that didn't work. That was so hard on this member or that member of the family, that's not a model that works in this season. Let's try this other thing and be getting together, if possible, with the members of the family, thinking through what works for them. And if we have members of the family who aren't able to communicate their feelings around things, to be watching them, how they're interacting with the event that we just had or the thing that we just tried. And if it wasn't working for them, it's wonderful that we have this beautiful flexibility in the Bible that we can be saying, okay, then that's not the thing for now. Let's try this other thing. Let's work it out. And I think there's a beauty in this. We'll be being hospitable to people who need us to have this flexibility in order to be loving to them. There will also be people who will find it really hard to be in your home at dinner time, but would find it a lot easier to be in your home for afternoon tea where no one needs to sit down, no one has to eat. They'd find it a lot easier to be in the playground. And so actually, as we have this love that comes from our different situations, I think we're going to be able to love people around us in a way that's actually adapted to how they need to be loved as well.
Yep, absolutely. Love and outward lookingness is always guided by grace and by the modeling of our God and the wisdom that we need to navigate this world. It's not governed by legalism and a strict duty to do things in a certain way. Yep.
That's right. We're to do it in the context that God has given us. He's in control. He's given us his context and we work within that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We should probably wrap it up there. There's so much more we could talk about here, but it's such a wonderful topic, especially as we reflect on how God has been hospitable to us. Before we end, worth reminding, we're past Easter now, so it's worth mentioning again, we've got our webinar coming up, and our webinar is not just for you, our listeners, but it's for your whole church. To come along and consider, okay, what are the particular difficulties, struggles, joys that come from neurodivergence, and how are we as a church thinking about that? So we've already had individuals sign up. We've already had small groups sign up. We've already had some churches sign up. So we really want to encourage people. Now's the time to be putting this on people's radar. There are some resources you can download at the website faithfulgod.net on the webinar page where you can hand them out to people or show people. But we really want to encourage people to be signing up now and getting people along to that.
Excellent. But for now, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Do you want to do that then?
Yep,
or do you want me to do that? Yep. Okay.
And you can correct me or add
nothing to correct. It's just thoughts.
That's right. I really am perfect. No, sorry, I'm not, just to be clear. Okay.
Good, because I almost believed you, Dave.
Okay.
How about I'll just say, I'll reflect on that for one ticky and then we'll,
One ticky. Okay.
One ticky. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess it is weird. Well, now I don't know what to reflect on.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding.